A24 is one of the most fascinating film studios in recent memory. Many of their films are highly entertaining while also being pretty provocative and fucked up. Certain projects have attained great success in the mainstream like Moonlight and Lady Bird, while other works veer into more avant-garde territory like Under the Skin. These aren't exactly feel-good movies, but A24 continues to make going to the cinema an unpredictable and enriching experience. I mean, sure, the Marvel Universe is fun, but I personally prefer something a little more sick and twisted when I go to the theater. So let's start off with something really sick and twisted. One of A24's biggest and best hits to date, Hereditary. Hereditary is a macabre horror flick directed by Ari Aster, and it focuses on a family dealing with grief, trauma, and all sorts of I don't know what. Essentially, the matriarch of the family, Annie, played by Toni Collette, loses her disturbed mother, and that loss has major ramifications on her and her family, including her husband, Stephen, played by Gabriel Byrne, son Peter, played by Alex Wolff, and daughter Charlie, played by Millie Shapiro. I'd like to keep things kind of vague, because I don't want to spoil the best bits if you haven't seen the movie. Even if you know what's coming, the film continues to be a rewarding experience because there's so much to unpack. I'd argue it's one of the finest horror films of the decade, though it certainly won't appeal to everybody. I find that horror can be one of the more divisive genres in the sense that not everybody's eager to willingly feel frightened for 2 hours. You seldom hear about someone who's reluctant to see a comedy because they don't like to laugh. But the way I see it, a great horror film is comparable to a roller coaster ride. It steadily cranks up the tension as you go along, and then before you know it, you're caught in a whirlwind of exhilaration and fear. In fact, A24 even released an ad boasting about how watching this movie elevates your heart rate and helps you burn calories, so that's pretty neat. Aside from its quality, what really sets Hereditary apart from other horror films is that it's also a superb family drama, and the two elements buttress each other quite well. A counterexample of this characteristic would be the Paranormal Activity franchise, where it often feels like you're forced to sit through boring character development before you can get to the scary parts. On the contrary, Hereditary is perhaps most effective in its family drama mode. The highlight of the film is Toni Collette's monologue halfway through as she hysterically unleashes invective upon her beleaguered son. It's horrifying to watch how much grief and strife is corroding this family, and as Martin Scorsese explained while describing the movie, probably more artfully than I did because it's Martin Scorsese, that the emotional violence in this movie is just as powerful as the physical kind. I think a good movie to compare it to is Don't Look Now. It came out in the 70s. Not everybody's probably seen it, but it similarly combines the elements of horror and family drama. It's really great. I highly recommend it. In terms of production, Hereditary is outstanding, as Ari Aster takes pride in filling the movie to the brim with disturbing visuals that linger in your memory, particularly with those weird miniature houses. Also, the acting across the board is really splendid, particularly from Toni Collette, who expertly plays an unstable woman grappling with unease and self-loathing. She's one of the most versatile actors in the business, shifting easily from clever comedies like Little Miss Sunshine to creepier stuff like The Sixth Sense. While the Academy's choice for Best Actress that year, Olivia Colman in The Favorite, definitely gave a stupendous performance, it would have been cool if the Academy had also acknowledged Colette's phenomenal work. In terms of the other actors, Gabriel Byrne is as great as always, playing the dependable husband. Alex Wolff really nails the terrified kid role. He used to be on that Naked Brothers Band show for Nickelodeon, but I imagine he wasn't screaming and crying as much there. I mean, I don't know, I never watched the show, but I'm guessing it's probably a different kind of role. And let's not forget Millie Shapiro. She plays the youngest kid, Charlie. She really does a great job playing this strange kid. She really belongs in that pantheon of creepy horror movie kids like Damien and The Omen, especially because she makes that weird clicking noise. It's like that. It's creepy. Unnerving. That's a good way to describe it. Unnerving. I gotta say, when I saw it in the theater, the audience really dug it. And it really fits into A24's wheelhouse. Funny little anecdote about this movie. A friend of mine is a colleague of Ari Aster, and they told me that Danny DeVito actually considered producing Hereditary. They even had a reading of the script at Danny DeVito's house, and the cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia performed it. Danny ultimately passed on producing the movie, but it's fascinating to think about how much different this movie would be if he had like Mac and Charlie and Dee and Frank. Those would be the actors in Hereditary. You know, I don't know if it'd be as scary. Probably not. Ari Aster followed up the success of Hereditary with the more artsy and batshit crazy Midsummer, and I'd argue that his sophomore effort is just as fascinating, though perhaps less audience-friendly. It's a bit more out there. Let's just put it that way. While it's not literally a sequel to Hereditary, there are definitely some thematic similarities that carry through, and I honestly can't decide which one I enjoy more. But it'll be important to remember that Hereditary is the one that started off Ari Aster's career with a bang and featured some incredible acting, really. For a horror film, this is A grade. I give this movie 4 out of 4 stars. It will knock your socks off. Check it out.